All right, hello and welcome to another episode of the Socially Numb podcast. I am your host, Richie Leahey. Today, I almost did another mobile test, but I decided against it. I was going to go ahead. Last time, I recorded on the go with my phone, and I did like little voice memos. I also tested it for a different podcast that I run, Southbound Sports, live during the Super Bowl, just to try to see that if I was going to go ahead and go to live events, I thought it'd be cool to cover a podcast or cover an event with a podcast so that I could just go over and talk about what was happening. But the phone picked up a bunch of outside noise. I don't have a mobile recorder. I used to, but I traded it in when I traded a bunch of gear up to get like some better cameras and things. And so right now I was testing my mobile phone just to see if it was able to record a little bit on the go, just like little clips, because basically the idea would be that I could go to a concert, per se, or a tech conference, per se, and just go through and talk about what's happening. So like maybe I'd go to a presentation. If it's a tech conference, there might be like 8 presentations throughout the day. And at the end of each one, I would just give like a little recap, little blurb, and stitch it all together and make it sort of like an event podcast for the week. I think that would be a pretty cool idea, and I don't like to carry around like a ton of gear, especially if it is going to be a concert. I don't want to be lugging around more mobile recorders or whatever. Maybe I have to. I did think about maybe just taking or getting a boom mic or some type of mic that like goes in the hot shoe of the camera and recording the audio that way. I don't think that picks up a lot of outside noise. I could set it up on a tripod and just like talk into it like I would do a normal show. And then that way I would basically have a smaller amount of gear. I would just be taking with me my camera bag, which I'm probably going to have on me either way, depending on which camera I bring. It doesn't really matter. Hook the microphone right into the camera and just record it, and then I'd have the video for it so that I could throw it up on YouTube or wherever. But I haven't decided. I did want to try, so you can get headsets that have like the microphone into it. I know the iPhone has its own that came with it, like a earbud set or whatever, headphone set. Those small ones that never stay in your ears, but you get them, and then it has a microphone on it. So that was going to be my next mobile test, but I decided to take a few weeks or so off first before I went ahead and did that. I didn't want the listeners to quit listening to the show because of the quality of what happened. So that's what I've been looking through. I've been looking at getting that a little bit. One thing that I've been doing is some more photography. I've been toying around with it in the past. I've mentioned before that I've done it for clients. I've also done videos for clients, and I started to talk about a little bit of those on the podcast last week, just going through. Most of the ones for clients are already up on the web. I'm not going to link to them. I think that's tacky, and I think that's a little weird that I'd be linking to professional stuff. So what I've done is I've been working on cleaning up my hard drive. I have an old external hard drive with like family vids or whatever on it. And so last week I threw up a remix version. I took off all the copyrighted music or whatever, because when I did some of these old family videos, this was back in the day before the copyright strikes really hit YouTube. And I had them up on YouTube. YouTube went ahead and a few years ago did a sweep, marked my account as like copyright material or whatever, and they give you like the strikes, and then if you delete the content after a while, the strike would disappear. At least that's how it used to work. I'm not too sure now. But they want you to just go through and remove the music. And a lot of the family ones I did were like sport ones or whatever, family ones. Some of them will not make in public because I just share them with family members. Understandable. But these ones, some of the sports ones I did for my brother, like for recruiting trip, I did them all the way up as he was going up to high school or whatever, just to practice. And then I made some high school ones. And so normally for the soundtrack, I either just threw on like ESPN Presents, like some type of jock jam stuff to pump you up while you're listening to it because it's sports, and maybe some hip hop. But those are all copyright claim now. So I've just been going through, with the YouTube has like the bank of audio that you can go ahead and download and mix it into your project, and then you don't get flagged. So I've been re-uploading those. The first one that I put up last week was him shooting free throws. I'm still working on expanding the posts for Socially Numb, like more of a blog type. And right now I have the videos that I made on a Socially Numb YouTube channel. What I might do is just kind of consolidate it like I did with the Facebook page. I'm thinking through it. To me, there's no benefit to have a separate YouTube just for the show. Yeah, if I had different collaborators, like I thought I was going to at the beginning, it might make sense because we could share logins, everyone can upload videos, but it's looking like this is just going to become my tech video game blog, and if I'm going to do streaming, it might be better to just use my real name, or Richie Leahey, my YouTube, I think it's under that. So I've been debating it. I might switch it over. It's not like I'm losing a lot of views or subscribers. I just have people checking it out. So I might be moving that over. So if you're a subscriber to Socially Numb channel, keep an eye out for that. If that happens, I will relink everything on the Socially Numb website. It's probably going to happen, just to be honest, because it's going to make it easier for me to manage. And then I can do, because I run a couple different shows. I've talked about them before. And I'm probably just I'm trying to get into a groove now that everything's broken apart. Because at first, the Socially Numb channel was because Socially Numb hosted my sports talk. That site also hosted my parenting talk. And so I had everything under there. Then I kind of broke everything out into different channels. And to be honest, it's hard to manage. The Southbound Sports one, I have other people collaborating, so that's easier because we can all throw up stuff. And with my parenting and the Socially Numb stuff, it's just, to me, to go and switch a bunch of accounts as one person just doing this in my free time for fun because I like talking tech and video games, then it doesn't make sense for me to do it. So I'm probably just going to move everything under my personal stuff, and then that way if it becomes because I've still been talking to some friends about doing more of a collaboration on the show, maybe bringing in some guests, I don't really know. But for that to happen, I think it might be better just to have everything under my name, and then Socially Numb is just the website and the name of the podcast. So that's what I'm looking at right now. I'm probably going to do it. I know I've already started to move all of my images and things underneath I set up a personal imager account to host all my images, and I'm just trying to put my name out there. I use my own Twitter now for this. The old Socially Numb one switched to Southbound Sports just because I was mostly tweeting sports. I've talked about that before, whatever. So keep an eye out for that. I'll let everyone know, or I'll post it on the show if that's going to be a real thing or not. It's just easier for me to manage, post all the videos, just make different playlists, and link it on the show or whatever. People can subscribe directly to my channel if they like my content, and it gives me a little bit more control that if I'd ever need to re-merge shows or anything like that, I don't have to re-upload. And let's say I lose the domain. Yeah, I could keep the YouTube channel, but I like to keep everything centralized just in case, and then I can always mix it back together. So I'm going to go ahead and probably set that up and get that rolling and go ahead and use that. So that's what we're looking at doing for the YouTube channel. This week I'm going to be launching another video, my brother playing basketball. The last one was kind of boring. It was just a free throw shooting contest. This one is going to be his junior high basketball highlights. I've had this up before. I had a bunch of people watch it. And so these ones were just practice. I had the videos before I mixed his high school sophomore tape. So he was closing in on a bunch of points his sophomore year. College scouts started looking at him. And so what I did was I didn't want to just jump right into the fire mixing sports. It's a little bit different than mixing other even family videos or whatever, because there's a clear dialogue and you have editing programs that went through. My mom recorded these in an old VGA type handheld camcorder. So the quality at first wasn't even that good, and then she upgraded to a HD camera just to get better quality for some of the videos. So it's kind of like my evolution. I've been popping them up on the YouTube channel, my personal one. Like I said, I might just move over my Socially Numb Raspberry Pi videos over there too, just because there's no point in me hosting the podcast there. Like video-wise, if I'm going to do other content, it's all going to live probably in one place. So if you like my content, like me as a host, like listening, want to participate, whatever, probably just going to go ahead and consolidate all of those into a single YouTube channel. That's the idea. Dad's Strength is probably going to be the same way, even though I didn't talk about that on that podcast. And then for Southbound Sports is still going to be separate, just because we actually do have other people collaborating and adding content. And so for Socially Numb, that's what I'm doing. I've been building out a Raspberry Pi robot, or at least testing through. So I'm probably going to start to throw up a bunch of those other videos. For video games, I talked about streaming. I'm still looking into that, either on Twitch or whatever. I want to find a game that I can kind of do it and just play that game. I've looked into playing like the massive multiplayer online games, if you're not familiar with the games, or like the acronyms or whatever. But basically, like one of the games where there's a bunch of people playing online, and you go through and you upgrade your character, and you can buy like add-ons or whatever. So I've looked at doing one of those, maybe like Counter-Strike or something, but I haven't decided 100% on what direction I'm going to do. I've also looked at setting up one maybe to just do like a Nintendo affiliate channel, because I like Nintendo content, and so I could play through some of the old NES games. I believe they're on the list that you're allowed to play if you're an affiliate. So that's my other option. Under that, I'm probably going to have a separate channel just for Nintendo content, which I'll probably talk about on here, but it's going to be underneath my own personal, or link to my personal account or whatever. But I haven't decided. I would like to just stream, but I have to find a game that is going to go ahead and fit the bill. I don't want to have to go back through and relearn a new game or a new system. I would have played Madden, but Madden just pisses me off these days. And it kind of would have been like the best of both worlds. I could have talked sports, talked football or whatever. But I don't know if they let you do that. If I do that now, it's probably going to be under Southbound Sports. Just putting up some videos, talking football strategy or whatever. And maybe using that to do like teleprompting or whatever. Unless I can find some other football modeler to do videos with and do like a live show, because I want to try to mess around with live show just from like a tech aspect. I haven't 100% settled in on what I want to do, but I wanted to look at streaming like a live show either on YouTube or on whatever, Instagram or Periscope. I know it would be cool to do all of them at once, but I don't know how that would work. And with that, I mean, I guess I could do like some type of streaming. They're streaming my computer screen from a technical aspect. So if you have any ideas on this, reach out and let me know. Or if you've had some, leave a comment on the post. I'll probably be talking about it as I'm filling out the rest of the stuff. Just getting caught up. I'm hoping to get caught up here early 2017 so that everything's starting to run smoothly. That's why I'm looking at the video transfer, just because I want everything to be on point. And same with like I talked about SoundCloud before, just making SoundCloud sort of like a best of to help promote the show and maybe do whatever, something that I could point to without it changing, so that I can throw up the SoundCloud stuff on my own personal channel or link to it on like Twitter or whatever, just so that people can hear it if I'm talking about it, whatever. But if you have any ideas doing like live streaming videos, I know I could use my phone, but I'm not sure about the quality of the front-facing camera. And so my dilemma is I want to be able to see what you would see, like kind of monitor it as I'm talking. And I know if I have like a couple different cameras going at the same time, I could probably stack them or something. But I know like I would need two phones if I was going to do two different platforms. So like, for example, if I was going to stream on Periscope, my phone could do it. Maybe, I haven't tested it, but maybe like an Instagram Live, I could use maybe a tablet. I don't know if it lets you sign in. And then the third one would be YouTube. But I don't know if I could do YouTube from like a computer screen that shows the screen and then has like the webcam view of me in the little thing. Because my other idea would be I would like to use some type of like graphics or infographics while I talk. So that's just what I'm coming down to. I could do just a webcam view of me sitting there and then get some type of stand and rig it up so that it holds a tablet and holds a phone and stream to all 3 services at the same time. Facebook Live, I'm not too worried about, because to me, Facebook Live is only going to show you what your family and friends see. So Facebook Live is very, I don't know. It's out there, but I mean, I guess you could do it to a page if people like the page. So I have looked into setting that up. I just haven't put any content on it. So as I'm consolidating and updating these posts, maybe I'll start to link up, write a little tidbit on Facebook. Same with Google+. But Google+, so the Google streaming would be YouTube. I'm pretty sure. I don't think like there's a Google Live or anything. So you stream live on YouTube, that's one. That would probably be from a computer directly. I don't know if there's another way to do it. Maybe from an app? I don't know. But then at that time, I'd have to have another tablet in the mix. And I just don't think that the quality would be that good. The other thing would be I could just take the video on, say, Instagram Live or Periscope and then link to it on Twitter and Facebook. And then so like basically I would upload it to Facebook after the live feed. Would be my idea anyway if I'm not doing Facebook Live. Because I don't know if anyone views Facebook Live anyway. I haven't tested it out. So that's what I'm doing from a technical aspect, looking at doing like a little bit of live shows. And it would be cool to do them from concerts or whatever, or like a tech expo. So it'd be another thing too. But if I have to set up all of these live streaming devices, is it really worth it? It's going to be a major headache to get like click, setting up the show. All right, we're live on 1 or 2 of these, but not the 3rd one yet. Boom, 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 and then go in it. I know if I had like an assistant or something to help set them up or run each camera, it might be a little bit better, but that's just not physically possible because you don't know what the return is yet on live streaming video. It's sort of like a new frontier. I guess it would have been easier to do like on Vine back in the day. Like people were Vine stars or whatever that means. Like you get a bunch of people watching your shows. But if you get on there, I know advertisers always look for ways to actually reach their demographic. So like if, for example, if you're doing sports, maybe the team will go ahead and want to advertise like tickets or like merchandise, like shirts or whatever. So that's something. But I'm just kind of looking into doing it from a technical aspect, just to get some experience throwing up some live videos and doing like your own show, kind of like the podcast. That was the idea behind it in the first place. Just talk about different technical things or whatever. But I'm not 100% sure on the longevity of it or what I want to do with it, and doing like either a blog or just video podcasting, or kind of just switching where everything goes into a live feed. Socially Numb will probably be a podcast first, any videos then. So like YouTube, I don't have many videos on. That's why it's easy. It's a next natural step for Socially Numb to just have the videos hosted on my personal account. And then I can point to them and I can kind of talk about whatever I want to talk about, and it's flexible. So if I ever get back into like just doing sports or like even just focusing a week on video games, I can go ahead and do that. But that's what I'm looking at doing. Some type of live stream, some other type of reach program that I can get going in conjunction with the podcast. And that's a pretty good start to the show. Just talking about different things. If you have any ideas with the streaming, let me know. I've been looking into just toying around. I think I mentioned last week I've looked into building a video game. I've been playing around with Unreal Engine 4. I just haven't had time with it to go through and play around a good bit. What I've been doing instead is I got the Panasonic GH-4 mirrorless camera, which is supposed to be great for video. I wanted to start doing a little bit more video stuff now that I've been doing mixing and things. And I have some like events and stuff, personal and just things that I'm going to that I want to go ahead and try to record. And so I think that would be a good mix. I have my previous mirrorless camera is a Fuji X-T1, and that's great for photography. It's actually really great, but the video is very lacking, and there's a limit on it. The video is that's what I used to record video for the first couple Raspberry Pi walkthrough videos. That's what I put up there with. And those have gotten a good bit of views. So that's why I'm probably going to switch, because I don't want to lose those views. Or I don't want to lose views in the future, or people subscribing or whatever. So I'm probably going to switch sooner rather than later. Maybe even before this comes out. But the XT1 has a recording limit. So I can go ahead and get a handset, I think, to extend it. And the XT2 came out last year, and it was 4K recording. And so I've actually been waiting, because this was about the same time. So the plan was to go ahead and right now just get the XT2. The XT1 from Fuji has great photos. It's great. It's very sharp. Great for taking portraits. I love using the camera. Very rugged, very utility based. So like there's knobs for each one. My one knob doesn't lock anymore. Maybe because I had sand in it or something.Maybe got a little wet. I don't know. I've heard you can take them to Fuji when they have like expos and they'll fix them for you right there. But I haven't taken it there. And I throw it in my bag, and I always have the XT1 on me. So it was natural evolution to go ahead and use the XT1 as my backup, or my main cam, my travel cam. And then get an XT2, which then has 4K capabilities that I would use to run around, record the show. Maybe use I think you can have an output from it directly to a computer. I think I need a capture device. So this goes back to like the live stream. Yeah, I could stream from an awesome 4K camera, but I think I need a capture device. And that's a lot of data to be live streaming. I know I have I have fiber internet, but is it fair to my viewers to expect them to want to view 4K? It'd be different if it was running as a television show. I know with the Instagram Live and the Facebook Lives or whatever, they're a little bit different, but I can get the same type of quality on a device. So if most people are watching those, I'm assuming they're watching on their phones, which don't even have 4K capabilities. I don't even know what most resolutions are, but even 1080p might be pushing it. That's why I think maybe the front-facing camera wouldn't be too bad for doing live streams, just because do people expect super crazy quality on them? I don't know. But the Fuji X-T2, I was waiting. The rumors were that it had 4K video, and some of the auto-focusing things or whatever were fixed. Now, if you notice a couple of my videos, I had to cut out because the auto-focusing constantly hunts when I was recording videos and testing with it. It kept zooming in and out, in and out. And I think most cameras do that. And I think when most people record video, they use manual settings. So whenever I redid a couple other ones, I used manual, and they turned out great because you can just focus in on a certain area, zoom in and out. You can have someone sit in, use something, a picture, whatever, prop it up where you're gonna sit, and then start the video, and it turns out great. And what happens is you only have to worry about the field of depth. So if I'm holding up an object, say I'm going through dad strength and I'm holding up a pacifier or something, if I hold it up towards the camera way out of the field, then it's going to become blurry. But if I hold it up kind of right in front of my face where I have already focused, then it's going to turn out great. And you can have a single point focus, I think, on the video where you just focus once and then it starts to record and never changes focus. That's pretty much similar to the manual setting. But if you're using a tripod, you can have it set up manually. And if you're not using the camera for anything else, you can basically leave it sit there in your little studio if you have a couch or something you always record on. And you can go ahead and focus that way. So the XT1, once I got that down, some of the colors were pretty bright. I think that's some of the lights. The one was kind of yellow tinted. And I think that was due to the soft yellow lights in the kitchen. I did it at our bar. So that one didn't really work out. I had a table that had daylight bulbs, much better color, much better picture. And when I did the manual focus, perfect. The video wasn't too bad. I know there was some jittery motion stuff, and I don't know if that's because of the frame rate or if it's from the camera or not being able to process fast enough. But that was my only negative to just using the Fuji X-T1. I figured the X-T2 with a better sensor would be able to take care of a lot of those issues. So my plan was to go ahead and get that. But if I'm going to record events, sometimes I just want to go ahead and set the camera and record. and let it go. If I'm going to do like a live video recording, and I don't even have to do 4K at this point. You could downsample, do like full HD, record, like let's say I wanted to do a live podcast and I wanted to bring video recording into the podcast where I have a video of me recording. It might be beneficial, and it depends on how the YouTube goes, where if I have people watching it, sort of like a live stream. It's not really a live stream. If I was doing a live stream of the podcast, like I said, I would probably just use my laptop. And my only problem would be, at that point, I have an older MacBook that I personally use for this to do the recordings on. And it's like a MacBook Air, 13-inch. And so at that point, I think I'm going to be pushing the limit. Like I have a feeling that it would be killing the battery if I was doing the recording. I just use GarageBand because it's easier. I know I had some other ones like the Adobe program, and you can use the upgraded audio. I think Mac has one. I've tried them all, and GarageBand is just simple. It has its quirks, like the stupid thing that it always wants you to record in bars. Dumb. I mean, maybe if you're just using it to like mix stupid beats, yeah, that's how you'd use it, but as a musician, you would never use it because you already have the click track yourself. You just set it up, and then like the drummer drums to it, and I always use time recording. Because sometimes because it records sometimes with a lag, and I don't think there's any way around it, so you need them to line up. If you record them to the bars, it drives me mad trying to get live recordings to line up. Yeah, if I'm using like their sampled beats or whatever, or I make a loop using like another digital program, the bars would work, because then you can just go ahead and loop it, and I've done that. I've actually taught a recording class at a technical college using that same structure where you teach the kids like, hey, you can do a beat. They even have like Sonic Pi is a program that you can create your own beats with. And once you have the beats, you put them in GarageBand, and then you can loop them all together, silence them, do like the volume, have it go up or down, add some effects to it, and it works great. But if you're recording live takes of like guitar or vocals or even like just talking like this podcast show, you don't want it to be in bars. And you want it to show the time too, because I watch and try to make the podcast around a certain time each week. I could probably go longer. I could probably go shorter. And if I start to add more segments to the show, then maybe it will go longer. But I would still like to know. And so right now I've been trying to keep it around like 45 minutes, sort of like a television show. Because I feel like if most people commute, I know some people commute way longer. So in that point, maybe in the future, I start to do segments. I could do like a bonus episode or something of Socially Numb. But at this point, no, I'm still trying to get all the kinks worked out and everything. So I just throw down one episode a week. I figure you could listen to it in a day. If your average commute is like 20-something minutes, you can listen to it on the way to work, finish it up on the way home. That's the idea with my length of the podcast. It's sort of like your own personal commute radio show. And then whatever the rest of the week, you can listen to other podcasts. Some of them do hour, because I think then you can go ahead and do the same idea. Some commutes are longer. I know people that have hour commutes. And so basically, if you're listening to this and you have an hour commute, you listen to it one way. The rest of the time, throw on another podcast, listen to some music or whatever. And so that's what I'm trying to do, keep it around like 45 minutes or so, maybe a little bit longer. I did have them up to an hour. And the reason I cut it back down was because of like the SoundCloud limit. I wanted to make sure that once I added in the intro or whatever, played the intro music and whatever outside, and I cut it, that it's fine without it. And we're still under the limit, but not doing SoundCloud anymore. I'm really not worried about it. So that's just what I'm trying to keep at the length right now. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. So that's it for video recording. I got the GH-4 because it does 4K video. The XT2 still had a recording limit. I think it might be due to taxes or something in the European Union. I'm not sure. It was like it has to stop at 30 minutes. I also heard that Fuji just hasn't figured it out yet. That's through like some secondhand talk where the camera has problems with overheating. And so even to get to 30 minutes of 4K, you have to have a handset that you plug in. And I haven't actually touched the XT2, but it does make sense. The XT1 is heavier. The sensor's bigger. The Panasonic, comparing them, is a little bit bigger of a body. So if that helps dissipate heat and it's a little bit lighter and like plasticky feeling, I don't want to say it's like pure plastic feeling, but it does have like it's a little bit less durable feel than the XT1. And so if that's a reason, like there's just more airflow space or something inside the GH4 that prevents it from overheating so that I can just record unlimited video, maybe Fuji doesn't want to have a bigger body because that might be the only way they're able to get unlimited or longer video times is if you have a bigger body and they have like maybe a little plate inside or something that helps dissipate heat. And they just don't want to do that yet. They haven't figured it out, a way to do it inside the camera. But right now, to do 4K video for even half an hour, you have to buy the camera. You have to buy an external grip that holds an extra battery or two. I don't even know how many it holds that you can go ahead and record on. So because I'm doing some personal things that like are like limited, like I'm only going to do once, like a vacation trip and things, that I'm probably never going to go back to there. And I just wanted some time to go with it. I went with the GH4. I've also thought about getting a GoPro because they're waterproof. You can go underwater with them. And so like if we're going onto the ocean, I thought that'd be cool this summer to have some like scuba diving videos or whatever. And so that's the direction I went. It's a little bit cheaper than the XT2. And I just got a wide angle fast lens. And I went through and did some tests downtown Raleigh this past weekend of just videos. I'm not sure if it's as sharp as the XT1. They didn't have the comparable lens that I use on the XT1. So when I shoot video or photos with the XT1, I got it from more of like a documentary style street photographer view, and I went with the equivalent of 55 millimeters, which is what Alfred Hitchcock always used. It's like the standard or whatever. I know some people hate that term or whatever, but it's usually a pretty short lens. And so it gives you pretty close to what your eye sees. It's not like a wide angle lens or anything, so it's pretty standard. And the Fuji equivalent with their crop sensor is 35 millimeter, and it's a sharp lens. It's great. It's great for portraits. I can get really close, get a nice field of view. I know I could have a little bit of a zoom lens. I think they have like a 50, which would be equivalent of like a 70 or something that you can really get some nice portraits on, some nice bokeh. But I just went with that. It's nice to have in my hand. I can carry it anywhere. And I was going to get the same on the Panasonic, but I went with a little bit wider view. I went with their 15 millimeter, which is about a 30 millimeter equivalency when you take into account the crop factor, just to get a little bit wider angle. So I haven't had a one-to-one comparison of the two cameras on sharpness. They both have the same megapixels. The ratio is a little bit different. And this might be just the way I have the XT1 set up. I don't remember. It's kind of like a set and forget thing. But I'm pretty sure the Panasonic is 3:2 ratio. And I want to say, or maybe it's 4:3, and the Fuji's 3:2. And so it adds a little bit extra crop to it if you're trying to print out like big 8x10 photos. I found out the hard way. So I have to look into that. And I think that that's just the standard on how the camera's set up. I might be able to twitch it a little bit, but I like to use the most pixels possible. To me, there's no use to having the camera automatically crop them for you. I can do that myself, but it's a great way to have a comparison. I just wish that I got the same lens. They just didn't have it in stock, and I didn't feel like waiting a few days to go out and get some tests. And for video, I'm going to get the wide angle lens anyway, so that's what I'm looking at. And I've been going through the noise of the camera at night. It was great. I was able to do some long exposures that the XT1 doesn't allow you to do. I think the max they have on there, they have a bulb function, but I think the longest by default that you can do is 2 seconds, where the Panasonic GH-4 had one that does long exposure for 60 seconds. So basically I put it on a tripod, pressed the shutter button. I had it on a 2-second delay so that I didn't jitter the camera myself. And then I let it sit last night. Went out, did some walk around through some of the suburbs of Raleigh. Got a great shot of the moon up in the trees. I might use that as our cover photo for this week, not 100% sure. And that's what I did for my tests. So the GH4 has been great so far. I tested the 4K video on our 4K television, and it looked great. I used the autofocus thing, so it kind of hunts a little bit, not as bad as like what the XT1 was, but I know that if I use manual focus, it's going to be awesome, at least in terms of sharpness. which I think most people use manual anyway whenever they're doing video. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm still trying to test it out to see if there is like a way that you can do continuous autofocus that's a little bit softer, that isn't constantly hunting and zooming in and out, even if it's less noticeable than the X-T1 for like if we do go to events. I would hate to have people look at it and pass it around and have it autofocus. But maybe that's what the GoPro can be used for. Pass that around at like a concert or whatever and have different people do different angles and just record different bits of the show. Not 100% sure. But that's what we're doing. Looking at getting event coverage for a big concert down here, Carolina Rebellion. Not sure if it's going to happen, but I would like to try to do some of these video things for that. That's one of the events. I figured to just talk about it here. Maybe get to interview some of the musicians, rock musicians or whatever. I think it would be a good way to expand the show. Get into some of the technical stuff instead of just sticking with video game stuff. I'd like to kind of cross over and expand a little bit. Still talking only about technology things, music-wise, trying to get people to talk about like how they record, what systems they use or anything like that. I think that's cool. I think that's a nice progression from going from technical stuff. We can still cover computer events, talk about the hardware in them, software systems, anything like that. Video games, same thing, people modeling, whatever. And then music, doing like live concert shows like that. Technology, it would be cool to even loop in some sports. What technology did they use to train with? And kind of cover all bases. So that's what I'm looking at doing. That's one of the ideas behind getting a good 4K camera. Try to put those up. Again, I can put them up on my personal YouTube, probably. Talk about them on the podcast. So you can follow me. Pretty sure it's Richie Leahey on YouTube. I don't have too many videos. I don't even know if my picture matches. But I've been trying to loop those up, go through my old videos. Like I said, this week's video is my brother's his junior high basketball highlights. So that's what I'll be posting up. For my other personal projects that I went through, since I've been adding these up to the Socially Numb site, just to get some more blog content and try to help us with the page rankings to help more people find the show. I'm going to continue with the Science Olympiad. Last week we talked about the erosion experiment. This time we'll just go, I had a simple machine scavenger hunt. And what that was I had the kids like try to find real world uses of simple machines. And this is something that kind of ties back into technology, computers and everything. Like it's easier whenever you're trying to do work to try to find the easiest way to accomplish tasks. And with the simple machines, that's what we did. We have a ramp. That's one of the ones. So we found like a wheelchair ramp, what they can use. Pulley system used to raise the flags, I think is what the picture of. Something like a wedge, maybe like a thumbtack, I think. Scissors were one of them. Wheel and axle. So like we were going through all the simple machines. I know I didn't name them all off the top of my head. I don't have a list here. I'm not looking at them. But that's what we did. So I have some old photos from that, just throwing up some old projects. Try to get the blog a little bit more fleshed out. So that's what we're looking at and going through and doing a little bit more of that type of stuff in the future. Just to at least get caught up as I have experimenting with more technology. So I'm throwing up some of the old content, that stuff that I've done before to help build up the podcast into its current state. And like I said, hopefully, so if you're a fan of Carolina Rebellion, maybe email, let them know about the show. We're going to try to get up there. Even if we don't have official access, I'm probably still going to cover it a little bit. I don't know if we're going to use like a GoPro or whatever. I would like to use the GH-4, maybe get a backstage pass, interview some of the bands or whatever. But that's one of the things that we're looking at doing, trying to find out what musicians use technology-wise to record with, because that interests me, especially doing a podcast where I'm using equipment to record audio. Musicians would be about the same exact thing. So you go ahead and you look at it, and they're doing their own recordings. They're recording in public or whatever, doing a live show. Maybe they're doing a live stream. I don't know 100%, but that's what we're looking at. And that's where we're going to kind of go in the future. If you have any ideas on live streaming, please let me know. For video games this week, just to cap it off at the end, I did beat the first LittleBigPlanet. I just went through and played story mode with my little one. She enjoys watching it. And I went through, beat the levels, pretty good game, pretty fun. I liked some of like the climbing things. There's like a little hook and pull device which makes the game pretty exciting. You can go ahead and do that, climb different items, very smooth controls. It wasn't as long as I thought it was going to be, but I mean, I guess Mario games are pretty much the same, at least the older ones. Some of the newer ones take a long time to beat because there's like 100 stars or whatever, and so there's like different depth to them. But here with the LittleBigPlanet, the first one was pretty short. It was a fun game. There's some collaboration things which I think add to the length of it. So they had story mode pretty short, and then they have a collaboration mode, which I haven't played around with. I have all three of the games. I actually think LittleBigPlanet 3 is free this month on PlayStation Plus. So go ahead and check that out, because I think those are the games I'm going to focus on because it's free. So I'm going to go ahead. I started to play LittleBigPlanet 2, and I'm going to go ahead and play LittleBigPlanet 3 when I'm done with that one. I think 2 might be even shorter. I think there's like 6 worlds. I think the first one had 8 worlds that you have to go through about 3 or 4 levels a piece on. And then that's the end of story mode. I haven't did collab. I haven't messed with collab. I mean, I'm going to kind of do that with LittleBigPlanet 3 whenever I get to that. And that's just so that I can feel like whatever the newest system is. Again, I'm still trying to beat up most of my PlayStation 3 games. Trying to beat them so that I can move on and mainly just focus on like PlayStation 4. And, of course, the Nintendo Switch, since I've been talking about it for a while. I finally got a pre-order. I saw that Target oversold their pre-orders, which is where I was going to get it, because I do this taste test thing where I get a bunch of free gift cards from Target. And so I thought, man, I'm just going to get it from Target. Then they oversold, and I had just called all the stores, and they were like, hey, no, if you go online, you can check and see like what we're going. We have something going on, blah, blah, blah. So I look and I see that, hey, yeah, they oversold, so they've been telling people their orders are canceled. In the meantime, a couple other stores started open theirs up a little bit at a time, because it was announced that Nintendo was going to be ramping up production and giving more pre-orders to stores. Most people thought it was going to be announced, and well, they had a commercial during the Super Bowl. So most people thought the pre-orders were going to be announced to be open back at the Super Bowl, but that didn't happen. Which, I mean, that makes sense. People aren't going to quit watching the Super Bowl to go pre-order a Switch. But the week after the Super Bowl, they started to pop up periodically throughout the week. I nabbed one. I just got the gray one. That's the color I wanted. I don't need the bright color controls. Mainly to play Zelda, and hopefully, maybe like Mario Kart or whatever, they start to throw other games on. I'm really waiting to see if they release details on their online system, because that's what I want to see. What games are they going to throw out there that I can play for free? Like the PlayStation has LittleBigPlanet for 3 for free this month. And I get to keep it as long as I have PlayStation Plus. It gives me an incentive as I'm playing these free games. I know some people are hating on the PlayStation decisions. Some of the games are pretty quick to beat. Normally I beat 1 a week. Talk about it on the podcast. Some of them are pretty short. I could probably beat 2 a week if it came down to it. Oh, and finally, I beat Dynasty Warriors 1 on the PSP, which is another game. So like I talked previously about playing Dynasty Warriors 7. Well, when we went into labor with our daughter, I had the PSP, and basically I beat a bunch of the games. Some of them I gave away because they weren't good. So the PSP I had, and I played a bunch of stuff. I hacked it, put a bunch of ROMs on it. Great system. I beat a ton of games on it. But I had 2 PSP games that I actually got that weren't like traded or whatever, that I bought that I wanted to always beat. And that was Dynasty Warriors 1 and Dynasty Warriors Volume 2, which were kind of like PSP exclusives. Now the first one was a pain in the ass because there were different stages and you had a time limit to beat the whole world. So you had to like fight through these little stages where it was like these random dudes. You had to like ride a horse, ride them down on horses. There might only be like 5 bad guys, but it would take time to go kill them. And I couldn't remember where I was because, you know, if you have a kid, going through labor is brutal. So like I have to go through and I have to remember where I was. So I assumed I was only like halfway beat with the game. But it turns out I was on the last level. So this level that has been a pain in my ass that I've played on and off for like a year now, beating it a little bit at a time, trying to strategize, was the end of the game. So very, very cool that it was actually that difficult. If I would have known it was the last level, there was just no level maps anywhere online. But if I had known it was the last level, I probably would have beat it a long time ago. because I would have sat down and known that, hey, this is challenging, but it's the last level, and I like a challenging last level. So I beat the first one. Now I'm down to one final PSP game, and that is Dynasty Warriors Volume 2 that I have on there. And so it's a natural evolution that I focus on beating this game to going ahead and switching to the actual Nintendo Switch whenever I get it. So it'd be cool to kind of get out and about from breaks. Just like if you work, you have a couple breaks at work, throw your Switch in the bag. That's the idea. That's what I've been trying to do with like the PSP. Take a little downtime from work, get away from whatever you're doing, relax, go sit on the couch, play some video games. And so now I'm playing through Dynasty Warriors 2. I have about three weeks to beat it. I don't know, will I beat it in time before the Switch comes out? I don't know, because I casually play that. But it would be a cool thing to do, kind of pass the torch from one handheld system to another, and then start to go back and forth between the 3DS we have that has some Zelda games and the Switch. I'm just hoping that they announce that, hey, any digital content game you bought on the 3DS or whatever, you can now download on the Switch, so that I can just go ahead and play like these old Game Boy Zeldas on the Nintendo Switch. That's my dream. That's what I hope they have happen. I hope they don't try to make people rebuy games, because that would be like a slap in the face to the consumer. And so I'm kind of like waiting out to see. There are some Zelda games I haven't beat that are 3DS exclusives. So I kind of want to wait and see what the Switch is. So I figure I play Dynasty Warriors 2. I have the 2 Oracle of Ages, Oracles of Seasons I've talked about playing on the 3DS. Maybe they'll announce beforehand, before I beat Dynasty Warriors 2, that they're going to be downloadable on the Switch. That would be awesome. Then I could just go ahead and port them over and leave the 3DS for my kid, and that's what I'll play. But not 100% sure. That's what I'm doing. A lot of stuff going on. Messing with some video stuff. I have a screenshot of the Dynasty Warriors 1, so that's probably going to be the actual image for this week's podcast. So check out the site. Leave some comments on some of the articles. If you have any experience like doing live streams, let me know. Give me some tips. I always encourage those. And so that's what I'll be doing. Trying to get some live stream going, either to cover this for events or just doing video recording. But I'm trying to get a backstage pass for Carolina Rebellion. That's where the video stuff's going. That's the first thing I'm probably going to try to cover. So we'll see how that goes. So again, thank you for listening. I'm your host, Richie Leahey. Follow me on Twitter and subscribe to my YouTube channel as I get some of these things up. I'll try to post links inside sociallynumb.com so that you can see direct links to the content. But thank you for listening.